there was a moment, I remember it so clearly. I was sitting on the floor in my bedroom, in between my bed and the closet. It was like this little space. And I remember sitting there. It was late at night. I think the kids were asleep. I don't know why I was hiding in the corner, but I was getting ready to, I was going through a divorce. I think I was getting ready to say I want the divorce. And I didn't know what I was going to do. I didn't know what I was going to do. I had no idea how I was going to survive with 4 kids. And looking back at it, I realize as hard as that moment was, the thoughts, the fears, all of it, it was such the beginning of who I became and who I am today. And if you don't know, my name's Isabel. I'm a psychic, medium, an energy healer, a life coach, but I'm also a single mom of 4 children. Not children anymore, but they were then. And I went through a divorce. And it was the scariest time of my life and the most intuitive time of my life at the same time. I went through a divorce where I had a business, which we'll talk about. Like I actually owned an actual, like I did this for a living in an actual building, and I shut down my business completely. Like I closed my business. I went back to work as a preschool teacher. And then all of a sudden, as a preschool teacher, the pandemic happened. Schools closed down. And I had to figure out how to make money to survive. I look back at it and I don't even remember thinking straight. And the thing that really saved me wasn't a plan. It was not a plan. It was me trusting my intuition. And this is me sharing with you a little bit of that story. So let me back up. Many of you guys know I've had my abilities since I've been 6. But before I was divorced, I had an actual business, like a wellness center in a way. There was like 4 offices. I had a little business. I did all of my readings. I did my energy healing there. And I loved it. I loved it. But I knew I had this weird feeling like close the business down before you go through the divorce, because I had a feeling it was going to come up in the divorce and he would try to kind of take the business. So I closed it. And I didn't at that time have any plans of reopening it. None. I was never planning on doing this again as a living. So when I went through the divorce, closed my business, walked away from my mentor in literally like the same time, everything in my life felt like it was collapsing. The relationship, the identity, the sense of what my life was supposed to look like. I had no idea what I was doing, so I went backwards. That's the best way I could say. I went backwards. And I went back to being a preschool teacher. That's what I knew. I felt lost. I remember just being in survival mode and feeling very confused every day, not knowing what was going to happen from one day to the next, and just trying to gain a little bit of stability in order to survive. The closing of the business was probably one of the hardest things for me, because it was my dream and my passion and my love. And now I'm a preschool teacher again. Like, this doesn't feel right. I felt like I lost, like I said, everything. It still brings me that. Don't get me wrong. I love being a preschool teacher. I love the kids. I love that aspect. I love walking in and, Miss Isabel, and they know you. And I always worked with the kids that had special needs, which I love too, because there's just a genuine glow about it, especially when they understand things or they get things. And it was just, it made me, looking back, that made me have a little bit of that groundiness, like I felt grounded. I felt I had a purpose again. I felt like focused. I knew the plan. I'm going to go to work. I come home. I make this much money. I was like, I can do this. I was actually like, maybe I want to continue doing this. Yes, I missed owning my own business, but at the same time, the kids make it so rewarding. Like, they're so rewarding. Um, you know, I was good. I thought, okay, I got this. Then COVID hit. And the school's closed. No more preschool. And suddenly I was home with my kids. No income. And one very loud question. What now? What what now? I think maybe for the first 2 weeks, I was kind of in this weird thing like, is this going to open? What are we actually doing? How long is this going to last? So I was just like in survival mode, like I think all of us were when COVID first hit. A lot of Netflix, right? How many Netflix movies did we watch? I watched so many. The kids were home, and it was just like, all right, let's figure this out. We're all trying just to survive COVID. That's really what it was. Um, I just, again, I think the feeling of like, I don't know what's going to happen was becoming familiar to me. Like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know how things are going to happen, but we're going to figure it out. Like, that became such a familiar saying to me. I had no roadmap, no backup plan, and just a lot of time. But the one thing I knew was spiritual work. I knew how to be a spiritual coach. I knew how to heal people. I knew how to give readings. Oh, I forgot to mention, rewind. When right before COVID hit, I decided to reopen my office, and I opened a different office at a different location. And literally COVID hit, and I was like, I was able to pull out because I was like, well, there's no point in me keeping this office. And then I was really like, now what? What are we going to do now? How am I going to do this? And I remember like, I don't know what to do. And I love what I do, but I know there's more to it. Like, I knew there was more in coaching than just psychic readings and healings. And honestly, I was like, I have time on my hands. So let's learn how to do life coaching. And literally, like, I remember, like, I think I was scrolling something, and somebody was mentioning it to me about life coaching. I started looking into it. So I was dating somebody at that time that actually owned a gym. So I was really good about talking to people. So I found something that was more aligned with like health coaching and life coaching. Um, and that's kind of where I was like, well, let me just do this. I didn't really have like a set plan. I don't know what I thought was going to happen with it. It just felt like the right thing to do. Like, I didn't have any idea about anything other than just this felt right. That's all. I know how to help people. That's a part I've never doubted. I knew how to give readings, and I knew my readings were different because I always bring in like, what do you need to work on? How can I help? Or not, how can I help? How can your guides help you? How can your team help you? So I knew how to do this. I've never doubted that part. This just felt like a way to do that and build something at the same time. So I just was like, well, what do I have to lose? I get a certification at the end of the day. I can work at this gym and help people here. I just did it. That's the thing for me. When spirit says go, I say okay. I don't know. I don't second guess it. At times I don't overthink it. I just jump. And I was like, all right, let me just do this. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing, but let's just learn a new skill. Now, I don't know what I'm going to do. How am I supposed to get on and let people know what I do for a living? How am I supposed to get back into psychic readings and healings when we can't see people in person? I was lost. That's all I can say. And there was TikTok. I remember, like, we were watching, everything happen on TikTok. And I started thinking about how can I work on this right now? Like, how can I incorporate this into my life? And one day I just did a random video about, hi, my name's Isabel. I'm a psychic medium, and I've had my abilities since I was 6, and it went viral. And I just would start sharing coaching tips, spiritual work, everything on there, like things that I've done for years. Like I just started talking and something just clicked. It just clicked. Um, it was like, I like to look at it as like it was the frontier days of that app. Like nobody knew what they were doing. Everything was just raw. No strategy, no content calendar, no planning. I would just channel all the time. Like, I'm going to give you a message from the angels, or we're going to talk about this today, and we're going to talk about that today. I mean, it's really good content, honestly. It's still stuff I do now, but I had no idea what I was doing, and I had no idea where it was going to go. None. No business plan. I just showed up and talked about what I knew, and I was real and I was raw and I was me. And I think I had no actual like, I'm going to make money from this. That was never a thought. Like it was just like, let me talk about what I know what to talk about. And it worked. It worked. You know, I think that's the part that nobody tells you about. Like sometimes the path reveals itself by you just taking the next step. It's like you see it. And I literally was just thinking about this, how we always want everything to be perfect. I need to know, I have to have logic, I have to have a plan. What's the next step? What's the next step? And so many women and people who I coach, right? They're always like, well, I want to leave, or I feel like it, but I don't know how I'm going to provide, or I don't know what I'm going to do this. And I'm not saying what I did is for everybody, but I just know, and like I have to jump. When something feels right inside of me, I've learned to trust that gut feeling so hard inside. There's no denying it. There's no denying it. There's no second guessing. It's like my gut is telling me A, B, C, D, and E. I need to jump. And that's what I did. That's what I did. Because sometimes, like I said, the path will reveal itself just by taking that one step. Then you go to the next step. And that's intuition. That's literally intuition. It's not this big lightning bolt moment. Just, I don't know, but I'm doing what feels right. And I know I need to do this, and I need to try this. And that's what intuition is. That's literally what it is. And I don't think we ever talked about, like, we never talk about that. And that's always why I say, you know, we're so focused on times and intuition and like my third eye, like it has, what does it look like? I have to see the vision. I have to have this dream. I have to have these things. But I always say, like, focus your intuition on your heart. Focus on what feels right to you. When you think about this in your future, does it feel right to you? Where are you at right now that it feels right to you? You know, and here's what I learned is that through all of this with intuition, it's not about certainty. It's not about certainty at all. People wait. We wait and we wait to trust ourselves so much until we feel sure. Like we need to have somebody say, you're going to be okay, or here's a sign, or here's the reassurance, right? We want that risk or that fear to feel manageable. Like, oh, I don't have anxiety, I feel manageable. But that's not how it works. That's not how it works. Every major move I have made in my life and in this season, going back to spiritual work, getting on TikTok, I mean, even becoming a spiritual teacher, which was way before my divorce. That was crazy insane, right? Building the business again as a single mom with no blueprint, no income or somebody to back me up. None of it felt certain. None of it. It just felt right. It just felt right. That's literally how I've always moved. Certainty, it lives in your head. It lives in your head. This feels right, lives in your body. It lives in your heart. And learning how to tell those two apart, that was the skill that changed every day. That's why I said it's what feels right to you. Do you calm? Do you feel happy? Do you get excited? Or do you have fear? Do you have anxiety? Do things rush? Like, these are the things that kind of look at, you know, I don't know, like, that divorce in itself scared me. That didn't make any sense. Like I had a stable person that was providing income. I could do my job, and if I made money in my job, I made it. Didn't work. I had a life that some people would dream about, but to leave it Wasn't logical in some people's eyes, but it was aligned for me, right? Me me going into and pursuing teaching, however, and waiting for that to come up, that was logical. People were like, oh, wait, the schools will open. That was logical. But that didn't feel aligned for me. It didn't feel right for me. I never can shake it. Sometimes we don't always know why something just doesn't feel right. We just know it doesn't feel right. And I don't try to force something to feel right. But I know that when something doesn't make logical sense and it feels right to me, and I say yes, all the puzzle pieces fall into place. All the puzzle pieces. We just have to get quiet enough to feel. We have to get quiet enough to listen, to trust. But when you're in survival mode, your nervous system is screaming its head off. And it's really hard to hear your intuition over all of that overthinking, over analyzing, screaming nervous system that we get. And because of me already being spiritual far before my divorce, like learning Reiki, learning meditation, learning how to talk to my guides, I knew how to be quiet. And just giving myself those moments when I felt anxious, when I had no idea if I needed to go right or I needed to go left, but I knew how to sit in quiet. And I knew in that quietness, I would find my peace. I knew in that quietness, it was the one thing in my day I could give myself, that I can't control what was happening on around me, but I could control just taking 5 minutes of a day to breathe. And I gave myself that permission to not be in fight or flight mode anymore. Just for a few minutes. See, a lot of us, we think we have to take all of this. And it's like, no, I know how to do this. And I know this is what I can. This is what I can do. And I think, there was so much before I got divorced that was happening. Like, I was realizing what was in alignment. I was realizing how things felt off and I couldn't force things. I was realizing what needed to shift. But I think me taking the steps into recreating my business in the way I did was needed, and it made such an impact into my business because now I truly understood what it meant to trust your intuition. I truly knew what it meant to step forward into something when you have fear and worries and all of these things about you. I knew what it felt like to say, I don't quite have clarity, but this feels right. And I know, and I need to give this to me. I stopped fighting and waiting for the logic to appear. I stopped waiting for everything to be perfect, and I just jumped. And I used the tools that I had, like Reiki and meditations and all of these things, to balance myself when I did get panicky. Because believe me, even now, you get scared sometimes. But I always feel that everything's going to work out for the highest and best good. And to this day, that is the motto that I play over and over. Everything works out for the highest and best. In times that I worry or have anxiety, everything works out for the highest and best, because I'm not going to let myself fail. My guides aren't going to let me fail. I know I can do what I do. I just have to quiet and connect. But one of the things that in quieting my mind, once things got quieter, I started to notice when things were off a little bit more, right? Like I said, you notice when you get a tightening in your chest. That means no. Warm and expansive means yes. I started listening. I started making decisions based on those signals. I started communicating with my guides more every day. What feels right? Messages, signs. What do I need to know? What do I need to acknowledge? And slowly, more and more and more, I trusted myself, and it got stronger. It got stronger to the point I wrote a bestseller book, honestly. And it got stronger. And in my identity, it never left me. It was still who I was. And underneath all of this, the deeper question, am I allowed to want something for myself? That was kind of what I was looking at overall. Am I allowed to want something for myself? Am I allowed to have joy? Am I allowed to have freedom? Am I allowed to want to have this successful business? Is this wrong? Because I was holding so much together. Once when I was married, holding stuff together for my children during the divorce, holding stuff together during COVID, holding it all together. And I felt guilty at times. I felt guilty even now. Even now, there's times where in this job I look at it and there's been times where I'm like, don't get me wrong, how am I going to provide? Sometimes the clients go quiet and you're like, I got to get groceries, or my kid needs this and this and this, and I got to make this much money by Friday, and bills need to get paid. And I sit and I connect and I feel guilty. Believe me, I can go to a 9 to 5 and never have these worries again. Feel guilty when you're up late. You feel guilty when you have to miss a game to do something for work. You feel guilty when you're not giving the time where over there when you're got to focus on your clients. You feel guilty. The voice of, and I even had family members say the same thing, should you be doing something more practical? That was constant. I still to this day fight that voice. Fight that voice. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I missed out on things because of what I'm doing. But my kids love what I do. I look at them now and they're like, oh, we like telling people what you do and it's so cool. And I do have a freedom of saying, okay, now it's like I may miss this, but guess what? I can take, Wednesday and Thursday off and we can do this and things like that. So it worked out, and I realized like what I do for us. And they realize this too. That's the beauty. Now they're grown. And I think they look back and they're like, we see what you did. But, I had to decide in my life, deeply, deeply, deeply decide that me building a life that I love, that I get to experience every single day, is not in conflict with being a good mom. And I think more moms need to understand that. You're allowed to build a life that you love, a life that you look forward to, a life that you get to experience, that you are a part of, and not just in survival mode. You are allowed to have that. It's a part of it. My kids watch me, or they have watched me through these years, and I want them to see someone who didn't abandon herself to stay comfortable. I remember when my son was going away he was not going away, he was figuring out what he wanted to do sport-wise for college. And he was like, if I go this route, I know I can make it to the NFL. I know I can go all the way. I know I can do really well if I choose this route. If I go this route, I don't know how far I'm going to make it. And I remember asking him, one was soccer, the other one, I said, what's your passion? What makes you passionate? What are you passionate about? He goes, I'm passionate about soccer. And I said, never chase money, chase passion. Because you can always make money where you're passionate about, but you can't make passion over here where it's not, we're just not it, where it's just not. And that's something that I want my kids to learn. Follow what feels right and what you love. Listen to your heart. Listen to your heart, because that's your intuition speaking to you. That's your guidance speaking to you. And I think now I look at them as they get older and make decisions. They're like, I don't know why, but this feels right. Or I know I should do this. And I'm glad that I taught them that. And I'm not going to tell you that I have it all figured out, because I don't. I'm not married. I have 4 kids, but I've built something that's real. A business that I love, honestly, work that feels like mine. I've done it as a single mom with no roadmap, with no plan, and a lot of uncertainty along the way. And I'm even going to add in a lot of fear at times. There's been self-doubt. There has been fear. There has been confusion. There has been so much stuff with it. But, it's also been one of the most rewarding parts of my life that I would never change ever again. It has moments where, I look back and I'm like, I get to do this. I actually do this for a living. Oh my gosh. And it's in small things where I'm like, I'm grateful because now I don't have to worry about how we get groceries. I'm like, you want to go to dinner? Let's go to dinner. Like, I'm not bragging. I'm just saying I've reached a point where I'm like, okay, we'll be okay. And I trust it. Now, don't get me wrong. There's moments when you're still, get your little struggles, but I don't rely on the fear. I know everything's going to work out. And I see my clients and their success and their growth, and it's beautiful. It's a beautiful, beautiful thing that I get to be a part of. But through all of this, through all of this is trusting yourself. Trusting myself more than I trust the noise. Trusting myself more than I trust other people's opinions and thoughts. That's what it's about, is trusting yourself. And so if you're in the middle of something right now, maybe you're rebuilding, maybe you want to start something new, maybe you're trying to figure out something and you're really confused, or you're doing it all alone. I don't know. Male, woman, they, them, whoever. I want you to hear this. You don't need more information. You don't need a perfect plan, because believe me, that perfect plan don't exist, because it can change within a heartbeat. You need to get quiet enough to hear what you already know. That's it. That's it. That's what I learned. That's what I learned. That's what I teach. That's what I teach. And if any part of my story sounds like yours, you're in the right place. And I honestly want to know. I want to know. Drop it down below. You know, if you want to go deeper, or if you want to sit with someone and help you get clear on what your intuition is actually saying, that's what I do. That's what I do. But if this video resonated with you, like, subscribe. I'm going to keep posting my content, because now we on the YouTube side, not just on the tick side, and I do real life spiritual work, and I'm building something that I love. And yeah, so anyways, like, subscribe, share, all of that fun stuff. I will talk to you guys later. Bye.